finished first, win his first USA track and field national championship at 20K. He has one indoors, but this would be a big feather in his cap, and I wish him the absolute best. Now, coming by right now is Maria Michka-Coffey, who on this lap has opened up about 30 meters on Miranda Melville, a little earlier than I would expected. Maria is, in fact, the American record holder. She's done it twice to the second. So she has tied her American record out there at 131 and some change.
Michka-Coffey first, Melville second. Their split on the last lap was 4:36 for Michka-Coffey, 4:40 for Melville. It's a 5-second lead for Michka-Coffey through 4K with 16K to go, and they have really left everybody else behind. Those top two women far ahead of third place Katie Burnett, who is now making her way up toward the finishing stretch. So it does look like it's a likely two-athlete duel for that top spot between the two Olympians, Michka-Coffey and Melville, but a close race for the podium here in that battle for third and fourth place.
Let's get a time for her. Let's get a time for her at the 4K mark. Let's see if Katie is on target for her 136, which is the key.
So Katie Burnett over in third place, and in fourth place in the women's race right now, it's Robin Stevens currently running in fourth.
19:28.
Katie Burnett, another one of those athletes that competed in so many events in track and on the field. She was a great javelin thrower. When she came up in high school, she said she liked to do as many events as she could. So she was a great thrower. She was a state-ranked thrower in the javelin. But she'd get to the Junior Olympics, she would run, she would race walk, never really trained for it in high school, but she enjoyed doing it. She went to Arizona to throw the javelin. A shoulder injury took her out of competition in Arizona, and she decided to transfer to William Penn University, knowing that she'd race walked in the past, started to commit to race walking, won the NAIA championship both in race walking and in the javelin throw. She was a 6-time NAIA All-American. She's gone through some tough times. In 2012, she was disqualified at the Olympic trials, so she almost quit the sport right then and there. She was talked back into sticking around, and here she is 5 years later, one of the top three, and a likely podium placer if things go to form over the next 1,600, or rather the next 16 laps, or the next 16K.
Well, you mentioned disqualification. It's one of the unique challenges that race walkers have to deal with. There are 7 judges out here. If they're all turning in warnings and red cards, disqualification cards, for either a bent knee or lifting, you get 3 cards from 3 different judges, or a card from 3 different judges, you're disqualified. It can be subjective. It tries not to be subjective. The judges are incredibly well trained, but an athlete who's just slightly off can have not just their day, but their year ruined. And they come to accept that, just like a gymnast comes to accept the fact that there's subjective judging. And they can disagree with it. So there's a runner out there is judged by only one thing, whether they beat somebody or they don't beat somebody, and what the time is. Race walkers have to add this other element to their psyche and to their discipline, which makes it uniquely challenging.
We do have a good view of the penalty board here to see who has received any red cards or fouls so far. There is only one card on the board, and it's currently been issued to Chelsea Conway in the women's race, so everybody else is perfectly clean at this point right now. No cards yet on the men's side, no cards for the top contenders so far on the women's side. By the way, while we were chatting there, the men came through their 5K split, 15 laps left for Nick Christie, who's the leader. Again, he walks a sub 420 lap, 417 for Christie. His 5K split, 21:15. Emmanuel Corvera's 5K split, 21:43. John Nunn and John Cody Rich still neck and neck within 1500ths of a second in that third place position, 22:10.29 and 22:10.44. Here's Maria Michta-Coffey through 5K. Michta-Coffey comes across the 5K mark, and Melville's right there, still only about 20 meters behind after 5 laps. Maria Michta-Coffey, 23:12. Miranda Melville, 23:19.
So the interesting thing about that lap was that Maria Michka did not really pick up much on that last lap. She had opened up about 30 meters on Miranda the previous lap, but that one maybe only another couple. That could indicate that Miranda just had a bad spot and now is back on it. That's one of the things that will happen in this race, just like a marathon or a half marathon of running. You go through some good moments, some bad moments, and you just have to continue to persevere. And you have to be patient out here.
Miranda Melville out of Rush, New York, outside of Rochester, went to Wisconsin Parkside in the NAIA. A lot of the great race walking universities or colleges are in Wisconsin, so she trained there, and then after graduating, really went all in, moved out to San Diego so that she too could train with Tim Seaman.
15 laps left.
It's true. Originally from Rochester, New York.
Went to Rush Henrietta High School just outside of Rochester. The 2015 USATF Outdoor Champ. By the way, Nick Christie through again. He is 6 laps down, and he's still booking it. 4:16 on his last 1,000. 25:32 for Nick Christie. You mentioned his unique background was also a pole vaulter during his original athletic career. And it's not often you see a race walker competing for a team called San Diego Pole Vault. So Nick Christie still a very diversified athlete. So many great athletes in this 20K and in the 50K, what you see at the Olympics as well, where John Nunn competed last year. That becomes a total endurance battle in the 50K. You're talking about being out on the circuit for more than 4 hours. Here, it's that in between. It's endurance, almost 90 minutes of effort in the men's race, likely more than 90 minutes in the women's race. But you need to have that speed as well in a 20K race.
Well, when you consider that at the 50K, the best in the world are going by the marathon distance at 3 hours or 7 minutes a mile. You gotta have some speed there too.
Well, you talk to elite race walkers, and if you ask them to compare what they do in a way that maybe someone who hasn't followed the sport very much would be able to figure it out, I think the best comparison I've heard is that you get on a treadmill as a normal person, you walk 4 or 5 miles per hour, and that feels pretty fast. These top-tier race walkers, the top international race walkers, are walking more than double that. They're at 10 miles an hour or 11 miles an hour if they're going at the elite level in a 20K race. The Olympic men's champion in the 20K might be walking 12 or 13 miles an hour during that race. So go on a treadmill at 5 miles an hour, double it, and see if you can even stay on the treadmill at that point trying to walk.
Well, they're not quite that fast, but they will. The Olympic champion is going to go on 20K at just under 20, an hour 20, which is closer to about an hour and 24, 25 minutes for a half marathon. But this is just it's 6.5 minutes a mile. Coming by right now is Matthew Forbes, who has been in our at both the 20 and at the 50 in the top 4. He's a unique story. He is taught and coached on an Indian reservation for the last couple of years.
Forbes currently in 6th place at this point. Your standings through 6 laps on the men's side. Nick Christie first. He leads Emmanuel Corvera by 30 seconds. John Cody Risch is 3rd. John Nunn 4th. Anthony Peters 5th. And Forbes is 6th. The leaders in the women's race are through 5 laps. Maria Michta-Coffey still leads Miranda Melville. 3rd place for Katie Burnett. Michta-Coffey is coming again, though. Here she is, still gaining a bit. It looks like on this last lap, she's maybe added another 10 or 15 meters to her lead ahead of Miranda Melville.
I would agree completely.
So 14 laps to go for Maria Michta-Coffey, who said, when she was getting ready for the 2012 Olympics, she thought that'd be that. She'd focus full-time on becoming a full-time professor, likely give the sport up. She had the bug, couldn't give it up. She was back out there the next year training to become a 2-time Olympian. had the same thoughts heading into London, that maybe she would, again, hang it up after the London Olympics, or after the Rio Olympics, excuse me, after she's a two-time Olympian, and would feel like she'd hit her goals in the sport, and again, could dive in full-time to her academic life. But here she is again in 2017. It's part of her. She loves this sport, and she is still the top athlete consistently here in the United States, and still at an international level. She's finished twice in the top 10 at Pan Am race walking events. Here comes Christie, the leader. Nick Christie has 13 laps to go. So Christie still moving 4:17 on that last lap. He's through the first